Now I can. That's
That better?
That's good. That's great. Oh, you're wearing a goddamn Laser Time t-shirt.
Why does that bother you so much?
Huh?
Why does that bother you so much?
Well,
People, don't we want, like, wouldn't we want someday somebody to be willing to wear a shirt that had our stupid logo on it?
yeah, but why do we want to wear a shirt that has their logo on
Because
it?
I'm a fan of them.
Why don't we talk about that for a second? Because
Okay.
I don't listen to podcasts, as I've said many times, because, I'm the old man character on the show. I don't use the tweeter. I don't listen to podcasts. I know how to use a computer. I know how
Yeah.
to build a computer, but I barely know how to use Snapchat. So I don't listen to podcast shows. And I've never listened to this show, so I'm judging without information, which is something you shouldn't do, kids, but I'm doing it anyway. So why don't you tell me, Brian, why you like your little Laser Time show?
Okay. So when I first got into podcast stuff at all, it was on a whim. I was at gamesradar.com, which was a website that was basically like how Cracked is with listicles. That's their bread and butter, but not as big as, say, a BuzzFeed.
Listicles?
Articles that are basically just lists.
Okay.
The top 13
You weren't
things
making
you
up a
like
word.
to know about.
Oh, I got you. I
Right.
got you. Top 10 reasons your boyfriend is mad at
Right.
you.
For a little while,
drunk. Okay.
for a little while, the gaming blog Kotaku would cross promote Games Radar articles
see.
here and there. And I wound up on this website, and they were like, "Hey, check out our podcast." And I had listened to a conservative Michael Moore Watch podcast years earlier, and I thought, hey,
Michael Moore, why is he liberal? Why is he fat?
I thought,
Fat
hey,
liberal jerk.
I thought, hey, I'll check this out. And I dropped in around episode, I want to say like 14. They were a fairly fresh podcast. And
Okay.
it was these guys who worked, Games Radar was owned by Future, which is the magazine company that owned, I want to say Xbox, the official magazine, P-Tom, all those video game magazines.
Okay.
That eventually disappeared into nothing, which is why all the guys who worked at Games Radar eventually got fired as Future ran out of money. And so some of them went to work in the games industry. One of them, Chris Antista, who's about your age, they had done almost 200 episodes of the podcast by the time people started getting fired. And
they're rejects.
from the magazine published website business, yes. And they were a big deal for bringing continued traffic to that site. There's no reason, like I wasn't going to GameSpot and I wasn't going to IGN anymore. And the only reason I went to Games Radar was to check in on what these guys were up to. So they were good for the brand. And the one of them, Chris Antista, had some money when he was let go, and he invested it into podcast equipment in basically the same way that I did last year. And so he started with a show called Laser Time, which was reference to an inside joke around the office or whatever. And him and a couple of his buddies who had used to be on this podcast that I had at this point been listening to for like 4 years, all started just doing it out of his apartment.
What is it about?
Laser Time is about pop culture things. So,
I see.
Bad accents in movies could be an hour-long show, and they just like play clips and discuss. Or
that sounds awful.
No, it's what? No, it's wonderful. And then people wanted, and then they one of them is a major comic. Well, one is like a major comic guy, and one's a pretty into comics from his youth or whatever. So they cooked up their second show, which was a comic show. A couple of them like wrestling, and this group of friends started putting out new shows. And they had a wrestling show. There was always a video game music show from back during the Games Radar days. That guy came and included his, and they had a little network of shows going. And then people wanted Talk Radar back, so they created a video game podcast. And they have managed to, it's not a great livelihood, as I understand. They live in California where it's expensive, but they've managed to put together some sort of sustainable life podcasting, because they've had fans going all the way back to 2008. And I am one of them. And they inspired me. Not only did they get me interested in podcasting as a medium, they made me think I could do it too. And that's why we're here right now. And that's why I'm wearing their shirt.
Well, I guess
also,
I have to
it
thank
was the
them
first
for
one
something.
I pulled off the top of my pile of shirts.
Okay. Well, like I said, I guess I have to thank them for something.
They now have a Simpsons show. They're going through every episode of The Simpsons ever and just talking about them.
Oh, that's gonna get rough.
Eventually,
I mean,
yeah.
I think you can have a really good long show about The Simpsons as a whole.
It's pretty fun, and they try and keep them short. They try not to go too much longer than the length of the actual episode.
Don't get too invested.
They also just came up with a new one that came out of their Patreon support. They said if we meet this funding goal, we'll launch a new one. It's called 30-20-10, where they look at this week in, American culture, whatever, pop culture, going back 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and 10 years ago. So they spend an hour and a half talking about this week in 1986, 1996, and 2006. And that's fun.
That does sound interesting.
It's pretty fun.
I'll give you that. Okay. Well, anyway, Brian's wearing a Laser Time T-shirt.
Laser Time.
I am wearing a Beastie Boys T-shirt because the Beastie Boys remind me.
I didn't give you any shit about your shirt.
To keep it real. That's pretty much all I've got. Yes, and they have 2 members with my name. Well, they had 2 members with my name.
We should probably,
sadly to say,
since we've already got some good chat going, we should probably just make this into that show. I'll just change the file name again.